Welcome to the Brac Shop. Now, London is full of lots of theatres. It's the West End. It's the theatre hub to London. Now, stay around and I'm going to tell you about the Theatre Royal Ghost. So welcome to the Brac Shop. Now today I'm going to tell you about the Theatre Royal in the Haymarket. Now London has a theatre district, and that is the West End. It's a bit like New York's Broadway, and we have quite a few theatres in the West End, and a few of them are haunted. Now I'm going to tell you about the Theatre Royal Haymarket, not to be confused with the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. That has its own set of ghosts, and I'll talk about that another time. But today we're talking about the Theatre Royal Haymarket. Now originally, the Theatre Royal started back in 1720, and it started a bit further up the road from where it is located today. And it was originally known as the Little Theatre in the Hay, because it was based on Haymarket, that road called the Haymarket. It got its name from where you used to be able to buy your hay for your horses back in the olden days. In 1766, it actually got a royal patent, and over the years it began to prosper and expand, and so they wanted to do a few renovations. So what they decided was to build a new theatre, and that's when they moved down the road to its present location in the Haymarket, facing onto St. James's Square, and it opened in 1821, the Theatre Royal Haymarket. And the Theatre Royal has its own resident ghost. Now, a few years ago, back in 2009, we had Waiting for Godot playing there, and we had two actors playing in it, Patrick Stewart and Sir William McKellen. Now, some of you may have heard this story already, but when Patrick Stewart came off for the interval, Sir William McKellen asked him, "What happened? Why did you through your lines there a bit?" And he said, "I saw a ghost." Apparently he saw an apparition of a man wearing a brown jacket and twirl trousers. And apparently it happened to be the ghost of John Baldwin Buxton, or Buxton, depending on how you pronounce it. Now, no bizarre thing about John Baldwin Buxton. He had a good life. He was born back in 1802. He spent most of his life in the theatre. He was an actor and a playwright, and wrote plays for the Adelphi Theatre before writing plays for the Theatre Royal Haymarket. And he had originally quite a good life. And people say that it's actually almost like an honour to see him, because it's a bit like an actor's tradition there, that he usually appears when a play is doing very well, and he usually appears for comedies. Now, John Baldwin Buxton, he was pretty much an ordinary sort of person for his industry. In fact, he started acting back in 1821 with a repertoire company, moving around the country. And in 1828 he married Anna Maria Honeyman, and they had 5 children together. There's so much in here, I've got to read from my notes. And they lived quite happily, really, as far as I could see, until 1844, when she passed away. Now, time went by, and in 1854, 10 years later, he married, well, 10 years later, he was going to marry Fanny Copeland Fitzwilliam. She was another actress, and it was all within the industry. And in 1857, they were going to be married. But unfortunately, a month before the wedding, she came down with cholera and passed away. So in a few years later, in 1857, he married her cousin, Isabella Copeland, and they had 12 children. So it's quite remarkable, actually. So he had 17 children altogether. And to think, when he married Isabella Copeland, he was 55 at the time, and he had 12 children after that. Apparently, if the facts are right, he had his last child when he was 74. And he died at 77 back in 1879. So it seems like he was quite an active person. And he lived in Lower Sydenham. Originally he lived in Putney, but moved to Lower Sydenham when he remarried. And back then they had the trains, which would have been running for about the last 20 years before he moved there. And it was pretty much like normal life, really, because Lower Sydenham is a bit like a suburb out of London now. It's South London. And he would catch the train into Charing Cross and then walk up to the Theatre Royal Haymarket. So, which is probably why he haunts the Theatre Royal Haymarket. He had a lot of good experiences there. And that's what I find, actually, is that spirits are always around when there's been an enhance of energy. Usually it's a bit of a negative energy or bad energy, like someone's being murdered or some horrible going-ons have happened. But it also can work for a positive sense, like a lot of good times and happy times. And it seems like the spirit will be there as well. So it seems like it's the spirits come around for the energies. And we don't know if it's because of that, or it's because there is theories that we're actually watching a replay of emotions that have taken place in that particular time and space. I believe that quantum physics will actually have an answer to all of these things. But if you look through all the sightings of spirits and ghosts, it's always when there's been a heighten of emotion, good times or bad times. And it seems in the Theatre Royal, John Baldwin Buxton enjoyed being at the Theatre Royal. He had a very good time there, and he comes back to it. And it's almost a bit like tradition for the actors today, because they know if someone sees his spirit, it means their show is going to be a hit. And he usually appears for comedies and a successful show, which is what his theatre was known for when he managed it. It was one of the top theatres to go and see a comedy act. So that's probably why he still hangs around the Theatre Royal. He even introduced the matinee in the 2 o'clock show. They used to have day shows during Shakespeare's times, but I suppose in the 1800s they managed to put shows on in the evenings, and he introduced the matinee back into the theatre, having a 2 o'clock show. And yeah, so John Baldwin Buxton, one of the happy spirits, and quite a good omen to be seen if you actually see him. Stagehands have seen him in the wings at times. Before Waiting for Godot, the last sighting of him was about 10 years prior to that with an Oscar Wilde play. So he doesn't always appear that often, but when he does, it's usually during a comedy, and a good successful one as well. So that's John Baldwin Buxton, the resident ghost at the Theatre Royal Haymarket in London. So if you've enjoyed this, click the like button below, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed as well. And also click the bell so you'll be notified of my future videos as well. So what do you think about John Baldwin Buxton? See, there are good ghosts as well. They're not always horrible, because I think it's a natural thing. As I said, quantum physics is going to explain it all, probably later on in our lifetime. So let me know what you think. And if you have any other comments on what you'd like to see or like me to have a look at, why don't you write your comments down below, and I'll see what I can do. So thanks for watching, and until next time, always have respect and beware of what's around you. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.